This is Greenhouse, a demo for Windows PC developed and published by 7D Game Studios. I received an email saying the demo was up and I should check it out, so I did. Downloaded it from Steam, gave it a go. There might be a slight spoiler or two ahead, as I do talk about one of the puzzles, but then again, there really aren't a ton of puzzles in the demo so far. But if you want to go in totally blind, I understand. The demo took me about an hour according to my Steam account, and I guess that seems about right for a demo, I think. It appears to be under active development, so it's growing and being adjusted along the way. I guess I only had one real game problem with this, and that was kind of minor. I played the whole demo, and when I clicked reset to start over again and record the footage for this video, even though I started from the beginning, a few puzzles in the game were already completed. They seem to have not fully reset themselves, and that actually made me get stuck on one of the first puzzles. If you spin this mobile in this room, it doesn't open a drawer because the drawer's already open from the last run, so I'm unable to actually disconnect from the puzzle and stop. I'm sure it's a minor fix. So Greenhouse is a liminal experience. I guess you'd probably call it a liminal horror experience, depending on how you react to these type of games. I played some liminal games that just have no monsters to speak of. I do think those sort of qualify as horror, and I guess I'd put Greenhouse in that realm. It seems to be a small studio production, which I'm totally fine with. I imagine this translates into using more pre-built elements and perhaps a lesser amount of programming customizations you'd find in AAA games. In any case, I've seen this type of thing before in other liminal games, and honestly, it all depends on how you execute on your game. After a few hours of playing, I think I have a basic understanding of the mechanics, and based on what I played so far, it's enough for me to go for a deeper look when it finally releases. There's no current release date on the game's Steam page, but I would hope that coming soon means this year. I definitely have it flagged, so I'll keep an eye after it and see. As far as plot goes, it's sort of weird for games like this. I'm not exactly sure if there's any story in this game, or any story to write home about. The demo's only an hour, so you get exposed to a certain level of information, but I don't know, it seems like we're at the start of some sort of story, possibly, but who knows how they're going to try to flesh that out. We have a large, modern design greenhouse, and there was some sort of tragedy that happened here. You start the game stepping past police tape and walking towards the structure. There is some voice acting at the very start of the game, and here you say to yourself that you are, for some reason, compelled to visit this greenhouse. Does being compelled to build out into the bigger plot? Is this somehow fate pushing you along? Is there magic in action? Or maybe you're dead already and there's a ghost sort of presence that's forcing you to be there? I have no idea whatsoever, but if you start the game with a character telling me they feel compelled, my brain starts working with the possibilities. I think the reality of the game is that they're just trying to come up with a reason you might be there. I don't know if that's actually needed, but I guess without knowing if this compulsion actually builds out into a plot, we're not going to know until release. So this makes the plot a bit of an unknown, but for this type of game I think that's just fine, and I really don't have deeper expectations right now. Past the plot, I guess you get to the handling of the game, which is fine. It's fairly straightforward, I think, and I'm actually grateful that they allow you to map movement to a controller. I love using an Xbox controller for running around games like this, and after some basic mapping, included in the options menu, it worked just fine. If you do this, though, be careful to not map two functions to the same button. I think I did it at first, and it's a hassle. It doesn't seem like the options menu stops you from accidentally doubling up. I think like other games in this category, the basic functions of the game are usually minimal on purpose. You can pick up and hold on to certain objects here, like you can hold on to a key, and besides that you can pick up really just one object at a time. Is that a problem? I don't know, I guess it depends on how you look at it. But you can also crouch, run, jump, and you do have a flashlight. Now, I've complained about flashlights in games before. The mechanics here need to not be infuriating. We have a flashlight, and you can pick up batteries along the way. The problem that I see now is there's no counter to show you how long the flashlight is going to last, or how many batteries you have. The truth here, I think, is that the flashlight, for my tastes, it just runs out way too soon. It seems to fade in like a minute or two, and I just don't like that. In this game specifically, I think the experience would have been the exact same for me if the flashlight never ran out of power at all. Running out of power just prevents me from looking at the beautiful environments. Seriously, if you want to leave the flashlight in, I get it. but I'd make that battery last at least 20 minutes or so, and then make some sort of a visible timer. I mean, what are you comparing it to? In real life, a fresh battery and even a crappy junk flashlight is probably going to last you 10 or 12 hours. So here, even if you're giving us 20 minutes, I think I'd be okay with that. Past that, the game is you wandering through a large and beautiful environmental maze. You need to find your way through it, or out, I guess. As you wander around, like in most Liminal games, you're going to start to wonder about the architectural design. Things kind of seem too large, or designed in ways that don't make a lot of sense. And I think that's what these games are really about. You get these crazy mazes to get through, and there's not a lot of logic sometimes. You get a few places here where the maze stops, and there's like a piece of emergency tape, like you're not supposed to go past that. Personally, I'm not a fan of this type of barrier. I think if you're going to put up that type of barrier, you should let me crawl underneath it. I mean, if I can navigate around it in real life with ease, I think it's only fair that you let me do that here. But that's just me, I suppose. Still, I'm sticking with it. There are objects around the mazes just left in place for you to pick up and look at them. Some of them, when you pick them up, they're going to give you like this ghostly image of like an event that happened with that object. I guess explaining one of the last moments the object had. They usually seem to be tragic moments, not always. I'm not yet sure if these are all designed to stack up to one huge story, or if they're just creepy pieces to sort of keep you thinking. Personally, I'd avoid picking up the umbrella. If you do, it immediately changes the weather. It gets super dark and starts pouring, and you don't seem to be able to open the umbrella either. It's not an object you keep. You just sort of touch it, the weather changes, and then you drop it. So I guess that sort of brings us to discussing what objects are like. Okay, you can pick up and interact with some objects. Some you just pick up and drop right away. Okay, some produce this ghostly image. Some produce sounds. But you don't really collect them in an inventory. Some of them you have to use differently. You just have to figure out what their purpose is. And they don't hold your hand with this game explaining these things. So we get a few minor puzzles we got to figure out, which I'm going to ruin some for you right now. The most basic are probably doors. To get to the end of this demo, I believe I had opened a total of 3 doors. When you see a door, you're going to see holes for 3 large symbols. Those are basically objects strewn around the area somewhere. And they've kind of placed them in a way where it kind of forces you to traverse pretty much the whole area to find them. Once you pick those up, those they stay in what I guess is your inventory until you use them. But some other items you pick up, you can only hold on to them, and then you drop them. There's no inventory system so far, and maybe you don't really need one, but I kind of wish it was there. The demo was reasonably creepy, but I got chills the first time I actually figured out a puzzle to use an object to open a path. There's this room where you find this mini staircase. You find it in a drawer, and if you visually line it up with this particular space in the room, those stairs magically get set in place and you can go further into the level. The first time I did this, electricity ran up my spine. It worked. It also let me know that there could be odd visual interactions in the game in the future. It's not a particularly hard perspective puzzle, but it definitely worked for me. It just didn't reset when I clicked the reset button to try the game again. So I don't have a perspective puzzle to show in this video. Like I said, I do wish there was an inventory system of some kind. I think it would make the game a little more difficult. So you found this staircase model, but it was used in the exact same room where you find it. If all the puzzles have answers so close by, my fear is they might be too easy to solve. If that model staircase was in another room entirely, and I had to find a place to use it, that would certainly be more challenging. But that's just me. So liminal games are basically psychological, unsettling games, and they can certainly be horrific, depending on how they're designed. My first play of the demo, it was certainly creepy, but I don't think there was an opportunity for me to get myself killed. So I was definitely creeped out, but I wasn't really scared. Interesting enough, there are settings in the options to turn on entities and jump scares. This really confused me at first. I kind of thought you would lead with those functions, but they're off by default. So I turned them on, gave it a try, and it certainly offered some jumps. A ghost running by a hallway, a swarm of insects crawling across a floor, or some random dude ran out in front of me once. That was weird. I also saw, I think it was a zombie ghost, jumped out of a box at me at one point. That actually got me pretty good. So turning on those jump scares, yeah, not bad, not bad. It is a demo. It was pretty fun. The time I spent with it, I think I probably ended up playing it for 2 hours or so. I think I'd be curious to see where this is going to end up. The graphics are certainly beautiful, top notch. and it's fun to explore these crazy maps. I just hope it gets significantly larger. We're going to have to see when the full version of the game comes out on Steam later in the year, hopefully. Well, that's all I have for Greenhouse for Windows PC today. Thank you for stopping by to take a look, and hope to catch you on another video.